Hi, I was just working on a new video here, part 2 to my fuse follow-up. I'll link it in if you haven't seen it, where I tested 400 milliamp multimeter fuses. Very comprehensive, very interesting video, but I thought I'd follow up on a part 2 video with new 630 milliamp fuses for the BM2257. So what I need to do there is time how long it takes for fuses to actually blow. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the video, it can take quite some time, like minutes to tens of minutes, many tens of minutes, like half an hour, for fuses to actually blow, depending on the current that you've got going through them and depending on the tolerance and everything else. I'll link in the video. Check it out. But it's annoying to sit there and actually watch to see when the fuse actually blows. But not only do I have to time it, I want to be able to go do something else and then just hear a beep in the other corner of my lab to know that the fuse is blowing so that I can come over and check it. So what I thought I'd do is use my lab timer here. This is a Brennan. It's probably not made in England, but anyway, the English company, Brennan, they make like lab equipment and stuff like that. And this is what's called a lab timer. It's just like a basic, like start, stop, lap, and it's got two different modes, cumulative, come there, and lap here. So yeah, it's just a very basic timer. It doesn't do anything, but the good thing about this is that it does have external trigger inputs. So it's got a common terminal here like this, and basically if you short out these two terminals, that simulates, like externally, pressing the start stop button, and likewise if you short out these two terminals here, it simulates doing the pressing the split lap reset button here. So this is not a really great lab timer or that versatile, but at least it does have the external inputs, which unfortunately is all I've got at the moment, so it'll have to be good enough for Australia. So I thought maybe I could tie this into doing the fuse thing. But the problem with testing a fuse like this is that you're going to get a very low voltage across the fuse, i.e. the burden voltage. I've done quite a few videos on that. My entire microcurrent product is based around that. Anyway, there's a low voltage across the fuse here, and then when the fuse blows, then the 12 volts that you're applying, well, in my particular case, the 12 volts, the compliance voltage of whatever the compliance voltage of your power supply is that you're actually using in constant current mode. You can see I'm putting 400 milliamps through that fuse at the moment, and it's got a burden voltage of 0.3 volts. In fact, that's not just the fuse, that's actually, because I'm only using a 2-wire measurement, that's a drop on the cables as well. The fuse is probably only going to be about 0.2 or something like that. But if I disconnect my fuse, like that, i.e. my fuse blows, it goes up to the voltage that I've set on my power supply, which is called the compliance voltage in this particular case. That's just the industry parlance. So I want this thing to trigger when I apply 12 volts to, well, either one of these. I don't care whether it's start, stop, or it's, a lap thing like that. It makes no difference. So I want to modify this so when I apply a positive voltage to either of these terminals with respect to the common terminal here, I want it to beep at me and stop like that so I can come over and take my reading. Unfortunately, as I said, it only works when you short out these two terminals, i.e. you drive it with an open collector transistor driver, for example. That's basically what it's designed to do. So I thought I'd just have a little go at just modifying this, change one of the terminals here, probably this lap reset one, add a little mod board in it to change it from shorting out to applying 12 volts on there, and I want it to stop. So how can we do that? Well, it's not that hard. We've got a Dave CAD here where, as I mentioned, we're going to have an open collector transistor here. In this particular case, NPN Jobby 2N2222 Jelly Bean component. I've done a Jelly Bean video on bipolar transistors. I'll link that in. And this is one of the classic Jelly Bean parts. It's not critical. Almost any NPN will work here. And the reason we need an NPN instead of a PNP is because we've got positive 12 volts here, assuming that the negative is connected through to the comms here. So a positive here, we want to then turn on the base like this, and then the transistor, effectively we're using the transistor as a switch, and then it should just short out the lap and the comm terminals. And because this is a battery powered thing, there shouldn't be any issues with like conflicting grounds or anything like that. Even if this external power supply here is mains earth reference, it doesn't matter a rat's because this is all internally battery powered. So if we connect the collector and the emitter across the lap terminal and the COM terminal of our timer here, it doesn't have to be the lap, it could be the start stop, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to use the lap terminal, and then it effectively operates like a switch. Now, of course, a bipolar transistor is not the only thing you can use here. You could use a MOSFET, you could use a relay, you could use a solid state relay, you know, whatever you want to actually do this, as long as we short out those two terminals there. So if we apply 0 volts on the input, then there's no base current here for the base emitter junction. Therefore, the transistor will turn off, it'll be a high impedance, and the timer won't think that there's anything connected there at all. But as soon as you apply voltage on here, then you'll get enough base current flowing through here, the transistor will turn on, saturate, and give a low resistance between here, and it'll think that you're just connecting these terminals. Bingo, it's going to stop the timer. But a particular quirk of what I'm trying to do here, because I'm using a fuse, it's going to have quite a significant burden voltage across it all the time. Like it's going to have 0.2 volts, a volt, even many volts, as you've seen if you watch the previous video. It can have like up to like 8 volts or something like that on it at just before it actually breaks. So I don't want this to false trigger with like a volt on here or something, which of course it will, because a base emitter junction only needs like 0.6, 0.7 volts to actually switch on. So yeah, if the burden voltage on this gets too high, we get a false trigger. So the way I avoid that is by adding in this Zener diode here. I've chosen a 10 volt Zener diode, so it basically, this is going to drop, you know, roughly 10 volts. Zener diodes aren't that precise. I've done a whole video on Zener diodes. I'll link that one in down below. Check it out. Very informative, but they're not very precise, but it's good enough for Australia. And basically, so we need to get to at least basically 10 volts, maybe a bit under, something like that, on our terminal here before this transistor will switch on. So we're just dropping those voltages there. You could have put like a whole bunch of series diodes in there to drop like 0.6 volts each or whatever, but you know, a 10 volt Zener, it does the job. So you could tailor that voltage to anything you want. So even if we get 5 volts on here, for example, it still should not turn on this transistor. And the 1K resistor here, I haven't calculated this at all, just from experience. 1K is like, it's going to be good enough. I'm not going to work out what the Zener currents are and everything else and all that sort of jazz. 1K, I think, is going to do the job for the base resistor there. So anyway, that's the plan. Let's go. So here's inside the thing. This is the mod board that I've made. I'll show you that in a minute. But basically we've got our battery here, single AA. We've got a buzzer here, and a nice attention to detail here is this little heavy weight here that just weighs the thing down, low center of mass, stops the thing sliding around on the bench. Very nice touch. And it's basically just a two-board construction here. Nothing much going on at all. Just the front panel key switch board. It's just got discrete wiring going over. That's a bit how you're doing. So yeah, they haven't production optimized this thing at all. And we've got our 3 terminals down there, and just a single PCB here. I won't bother taking it out now, but I've taken it out donkeys years ago. And there's just a little, from memory, is just a little chip on board. Just a single custom ASIC chip and just a blob, and that's it, driving the LCD. So yeah, pretty simple. So I've created the mod board here with the circuit exactly as configured there. So let's give it a go. Something is wrong here. It doesn't work. Check it out, right? So here's my timer, start, stop, okay, and so all our buttons work, no problems whatsoever, but listen, when I connect it, it beeped. It is doing the lap thing, and my lap switch actually works like this, but if I plug in my voltage across the fuse, it beeps at me, and it thinks that it's actually, and the button doesn't work anymore. And I've only got 0.6 volts across the terminals there, like from the fuse, because that's the voltage drop of the fuse at 400 milliamps. Well, not just the fuse, but the leads and everything else. So, yeah? What? And if I break the fuse, simulate it breaking, I get my 12 volts, and it doesn't stop. So that's like permanently on. I've goofed something, because that should have worked. Well, there's your problem. I'm not sure if anyone spotted that before, because I don't know. I had a complete brain fart. I was not thinking when I soldered this. Must have been daydreaming. Can you spot the problem with our little Zener diode there? Yeah, it's back to front, because there's the black band on it, and that is the cathode, and that's going to the base. Whereas our circuit, the anode, should be going to the base. Ugh. Oh! Now, while checking that, I just found something interesting. Look, I'm reading the voltage between the COM terminal and the start-stop over here. It's negative 1.5 volts. So that is exactly the same voltage as the battery. So I just assumed that the COM, what I call the COM terminal here, the black one, is what would have been connected to the battery negative. But it's not. It's connected to the battery positive. Let me double check that. And yep, the COM terminal and the battery positive are electrically connected, shorted. So that's interesting, that this circuit is that the inputs here, I just assumed that would be reference to the internal circuit common or negative, but it's not. It's actually reference to the battery plus input. Now, that shouldn't actually, in theory, that shouldn't make any difference to here, because as I mentioned, even though, we've got basically negative 1.5 volts on here relative to this terminal, it shouldn't matter, because we've got a separate power supply out here and a separate isolated battery supply in here. So in theory, that shouldn't matter. We should still be able to turn that transistor on. But if you know your transistor theory, you should know the Ebers-Moll model of the transistor. It's actually, you can model it with another diode in here as well, between the base and the collector like this, as well as the base and emitter. So that can cause you problems. But anyway, let's fix our bloody diode goof and try that again. All right, let's see if it works this time. Now, one thing I just noticed is that my fuse actually blew. My 630 milliamp fuse, and you saw that it was 0.6 volts before. Well, now it's actually 0.2 volts again, because I've got a brand new fuse on there. So I was just mucking around. I must have been abusing this poor fuse, and it eventually blew. So anyway, I have reversed my diode now, so it's exactly as per this circuit now. So let's see if it works. We've got 0.2 volts on the input, which is the burden voltage across the fuse. And can we operate it? Yes, we can. And the lap button now works. So yep, no problems whatsoever. So we start our timer. Let's now simulate breaking the fuse. This should jump up to 12 volts, which is the compliance voltage of our power supply, and it should trigger. Yay! Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So that works just fine. And so yeah, it'll now beep at me. I can come along and I can read that reading off there. So let's find out now what our essential trigger voltage is. Trigger voltage isn't the correct word, maybe threshold voltage on our input here, to overcome, to switch on the transistor here, to overcome the voltage of the Zener the drop on the Zener diode here. As I mentioned, it's probably going to be a smidge under that 10 volts, because they're not precise, and it has to do with the resistor current and everything else, the characteristic curves of the Zener. We won't go into that detail. You can watch my video. Yeah, so let's start out at 1 volt here and just wind it up until our transistor switches on here. And so let's give that a go. So we've disconnected our fuse here. Let's start at 1 volts and let's wind up the wick, shall we? And where will it trigger? Place your bets, place your bets. 9 volts, maybe. 9.5. Getting there. Whoa, 9.6. Oh, there you go, 9.6 volts. No worries, so that is perfect. So we can tolerate a massive 9.6 volt burden voltage on here without this thing triggering at all. So that's exactly what I want. So there you go. So now I'm going to be able to test these fuses in bulk, because some of these can take up to like half an hour to blow. So yeah, I don't want to be watching this rig. I can just sit on the other side of the lab here and just listen for the beep, and then come over and it's automatically recorded the value here. So there you go. hope you enjoyed that video, even with that little goof in there, although I guess we learned something there. Yeah, double check placement of the components. If I had $1 for every time I put a Zener in back at the front, I think, geez, I'd be rich. Yeah, your mind just thinks, oh yeah, it's a diode, and you don't realize, oh, Zener diodes, it's got to go in backwards because they're reverse biased. That's how the breakdown voltage works. Yeah, you can put it the other way. It works as a regular diode just fine, but yeah, not for this circuit. We wanted to drop that voltage. So there you go. But as I said, didn't have to use a transistor. Could have just whacked on a 12-volt relay or something like that. And then the relay would have had, the coil of the relay would have had maybe like 6 or 7 volts or something to like switch that on, that sort of latch-in voltage on the relay. So, you know, that would have, so you can reduce your parts count from 3 down to 1 if you really wanted to for a bit slower reaction time, you know, milliseconds instead of, you know, practically instant for the transistor here. But yeah, we're not that fussy. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. As always, discuss down below. Catch you next time.